So I think it's been about a month since I've done a role player video, and I don't really have an intro. I think we're just going to dive right in. Props to the Pacers, and to Pacers fans, you're going to get a twofer on this one. First one's TJ McConnell, who has basically become this year's version of Monte Morris. Monte Morris is still kind of this year's version of Monte Morris, but he plays less, so it's not as cool. Whereas TJ is racking up the assists coming off the bench for the Pacers. He's had like over 10 in each of his last 2 games. And if we do an assist to turnover check for the season, TJ with 233 assists and 60 turnovers. That's pretty alright. That sounds like it's going in the right direction. The other cool thing about TJ is he just doesn't shoot threes, but he's still a positive player. He has attempted 0.3 threes this season, but he is still shooting like 52% from the field, and he is shooting, he's shooting basically 50% from 10 to 16 feet. His long twos have actually been bad, so for whatever that's worth. His floaters have been amazing, so that's cool. And he just kind of navigates things well enough for the Pacers. He understands what he's not good at, and he's really good at finding open teammates. I saw a post on Reddit that I think is a great way to describe him. He is Steve Nash without range. I think that's pretty good. And he makes the Pacers a little more interesting to watch. They're already kind of weird because it's the Turner-Sabonis thing, and there's no one dude at the moment who's averaging like 25 a game on the team. And then you got a backup point guard who racks up assists and doesn't shoot outside jumpers. So there you go. The second one, because I told you the Pacers are getting 2, is Doug McDermott. And Dougie Fresh is also a nice little thing for the Pacers to go to for about 20 minutes a game. 44% on 4 threes a game, 10 points a game. Occasionally has a big night. He had 24 recently against the Nuggets. But a lot of the time with him, it's somewhere between 8 to 13 a game, basically his 10 points a game thing. But whenever I see him out there, when I'm watching the Pacers, it just seems like he's helping them in a lot of ways besides just his point totals. And the obvious one is, of course, the spacing and how he moves off the ball and stuff. And that's it. I don't know how to describe it completely. Whenever I watch the Pacers, McDermott is just very noticeable out there. The funny thing is, there's more players on the Pacers I could have in here, Justin Holiday being one of them, so that could be a thing for another role player video. If we move on to the Mavericks, who I believe I had Maxi Kleber in here earlier, Dorian Finney-Smith. We have another member of the 3-and-D club, and, well, it's him, as you would probably guess. He's shooting, like 37% on more than 0 threes a game this season? Pretty much, 38% on 4 threes a game. And that was the big question with him, because you saw the height and the defensive versatility, and now his offensive game has come around. Hopefully he can maintain this, because if so, then this is a long-term option for Dallas, a guy who can play the 3, the 4, defend a few positions, and space the floor out constantly. And then you got to deal with him and Kleber, and, well, Dwight Powell got hurt, and I think he was a pretty big deal for them as a role guy. But then you still have Porzingis' shooting, and Seth Curry and all that. So there are quite a few floor spacers on this Dallas team, and of course Rick Carlisle is one of the best coaches in the league. But in terms of Finney-Smith himself, he's good. He also grabs 2 offensive rebounds a game, which I'm a big fan of. And what may be the best part about all this with him and this Mavs team is he's only making $4 million a season until after 2022. So that is a hell of a bargain for a guy that they are currently playing basically 30 minutes a game. And I think there was a little bit of conversation about Robert Covington to the Mavericks. They basically already have their Robert Covington. Now, of course, more defense and more shooting and more two-way players. It's always a great idea. But it's not like they're in desperate need for a multi-positional 3-and-D guy. Speaking of multi-position 3-and-D guys, Derrick Favors is not that at all. He is a physical center who has been pretty damn good for the Pelicans since he came back. Very solid across the board. You could argue that Favors' offensive game never really went to the levels that it looked like it could have a couple of years ago, but he's still one of the best finishers in the league. The guy shoots 74% at the rim. He has 34 dunks this year, and he's played in 26 games, so okay, for whatever that's worth. Setting screens, catching alley-oops, or tip shots, or dump-off passes, just all that stuff that's really boring but effective when you can do it all well. He's scoring less points than he's grabbing rebounds, which is a nice little thing for whatever reason to me. 10 rebounds a game, 9.8 points. Over 3 offensive rebounds a game, and he's only playing 24 minutes a game, so the dude's productive when he comes in there. And defensively, he's pretty alright as well. He did have a couple of 20-point games back-to-back against the Jazz and the Clippers, so that's cool. Including shooting 100% against the Clippers. So, for whatever that's worth, Derrick Favors. We have one more guy, also a big man, Ivica Zubac of the Clippers, who plays about 18, maybe 20 minutes a game. Montrez is thought of as more of the actual center on that team. So I'm going to flex a little bit. Zach Lowe, in his 10 things column that he put out today, didn't directly say this, but he said it in like a different way, that the Clippers' rebounding numbers fall off a cliff when Zubac is not in there. The thing I'm flexing about is that I said that about a week ago, so my life is basically peaked at this point. Zubac is solid across the board. Similar to Derrick Favors, it's all the boring stuff, but look, when you're a well-sized big, and he's 7 feet, and he's listed at 240, and you just do all the little stuff well. You set screens, you catch passes, you grab rebounds and box guys out and don't suck on defense or anything. That can go a pretty long way when you're consistent, like Zubac is. The advanced stats would suggest that Zubac is incredible and is maybe the 13th best player in the league or something. Of course, he is not that, because Basketball Reference loves bigs who finish and grab rebounds, but he still has been good. Now, could you attack him in pick and rolls and space and stuff? Yeah, potentially, but it's not like that's happening every game or anything. Although in the playoffs, that could be a little bit more of a thing. But in terms of just steady minutes at the center position, Zubac definitely gives it to the Clippers. And that's it. Another role player video for you. Hopefully I'll remember to do a couple more of these before the season ends, and then eventually we'll do the role player all-stars. I do like the fact that the field is a little more open this season. It's not just going to be Danny Green, Robert Covington, and whoever else, although those guys will probably make it. Anyway, that's it for me.